So we're expecting that Theresa May is going to announce no vote tomorrow.
Yeah, the vote's been pulled, which is extraordinary. It's only earlier
today. Can you absolutely confirm that?
Well, I can only confirm what the BBC itself is said has happened. Nick Robinson has just tweeted it, so I assume that's right.
Okay.
And it is an extraordinary state of affairs because obviously yesterday and this morning the government said it's absolutely going to happen. We're going to have the vote. I'm not even quite sure how in parliamentary terms they managed to pull the vote. So it is very extraordinary. I think one of the reasons was they were going to go down to a heavy defeat, and I think there was also rumours that ministers might be resigning, so probably that's a good reason to pull any vote.
107 Tory MPs would have voted against it.
I think more than that, because that's only backbenchers. I think people in government who don't support it, who've stayed loyal at the moment, hoping that the Prime Minister would change her position, would have also voted against as well.
Can Theresa May survive the week?
Well, she can survive if she goes back to Brussels and says, I mean, it's very easy. All she has to say is, look, I've tried this deal. Clearly it's not going to go through Parliament. I'm going to go back to my position prior to Chequers, which 98% of Conservative MPs supported, and go for a comprehensive free trade agreement. And I think she could unite the party and the country on that.
How likely is that?
Well, given that the vote is going to be pulled and the Prime Minister is going to make a statement, I assume she's going to say she's listened to Parliament and she's going to go back and try and get a better deal. Whether she can, of course, I don't know.
I mean, we were just hearing from the Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, saying this deal is not open for renegotiation because obviously once a renegotiation is opened up, it's not just one side that'll say, well, we want this. Other sides will start to say, well, we didn't get this and we want to rethink that as well.
Well, I'm rather surprised Foreign Secretary just said that because he must know that the vote's off. So
that was actually him speaking prior to knowing that the vote was off.
So
yeah.
he was on the previous government line, and now I think that might be wrong because I think he will now be saying, well, the Prime Minister's right to go back and try and renegotiate. So things are happening at an extraordinary rate of knots here, but it's clear that the withdrawal agreement, as proposed, is dead in the water.
When you say that was the previous government line, now we're, with all these changing lines, how much credibility does Theresa May have?
Well, the government has a problem with credibility, obviously, because this proposal hasn't got, as you say, a support of more than 100 Conservative MPs. So clearly, when you haven't got the support of more than 100 MPs, you've got a real problem. And if at the last minute the Prime Minister's listened to what we're saying and is going to go back and renegotiate for a proper Brexit, then great, that's good for the country.
Labour are talking about a confidence vote in the government potentially tomorrow.
I think they've pulled the confidence vote. I think, if anything, they might go for a vote of censure, which is a different thing entirely. I mean, if there's a vote of confidence and the withdrawal agreement hasn't gone through, Theresa May will get the vote of confidence because the DUP says they would support the government. So nothing that's said 1 minute seems to hold 10 minutes later. So I just think we'll just have to wait and see on that as well.
Are we closer to a second referendum?
No, we've had the referendum. That's the one thing the Prime Minister has been absolutely firm on. We're not going to have another referendum and we're going to come out on the 29th of March. We are clearly a day nearer coming out of the European Union on a clean global Brexit without a trade agreement with the EU. I mean, every day that goes by, we must be getting closer to that prospect.
The Prime Minister has repeatedly said this is the only deal. I mean, as you say, the line might change, but she's been saying that, and in the absence of that, if this deal doesn't happen, it feels like you could argue, couldn't you more accurately, that we're a step closer to no-deal Brexit? No, because the one thing that what Parliament has voted for, they voted for the Article 50 process, which says you're going to come out on the 29th of March, and if you haven't got a deal, you'll trade on how we trade with the rest of the world, which is called WTO rules. So I think that's the one thing we are sure. That's what the legislation says. Anything else, somehow Parliament would have to vote to change it, and I can't see that happening. No, you're right to say the Prime Minister said this is the only deal, but the fact that she's pulling the vote suggests to me that she thinks maybe there is a chance to renegotiate, and I hope she will go back to Brussels and renegotiate. What is the mood in your party right now? All of many figures coming out and jockeying for position, and this sort of anticipation that there is going to be a leadership contest. I mean, it's the vote on Europe is the biggest vote that any MP will make in peacetime. So it is an extremely important vote, and everybody is
laying awake at night worrying about it or worrying about what's going to happen. So it's not an easy vote, and there are still MPs making up their mind. But I think it's very, very, very clear that the withdrawal agreement that's been suggested, there just is a huge minority in government that support it. The rest think that it should be, killed off. And I think one way or another it will be. We thought it was going to be killed off tomorrow. Maybe it's postponed for another week. But until the Prime Minister speaks, we won't know.
But there's no way it can be revived, is there? Isn't the Prime Minister's withdrawal deal dead?
I've given up predicting anything under these circumstances. I just think we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Peter Bone, thank you.